Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Dressed all nice and comfy. I love how this is my idea of like a cutesy outfit. Of course we have like the troll who wants to be the center of attention in this video, I guess, but besides that, today's video, I'm doing a book unhaul. I recently went through all of the books in my personal little library, and I was like, I honestly need more shelf space for all of my newer books. I'm currently running out of shelf space. So I went through and I was like, okay, this can go, don't need that anymore. And just kind of figured out which books I was okay with getting rid of, because I do have books where I read it and I'm like, okay, I didn't love it enough to keep it on my bookshelf. And then there's some where I kept on to them because I did like them, but eventually it has to be time to get rid of them because I'm not gravitating towards them and they're just sitting there. So I try to rotate them out. That way I have spaces for all of my newer books. So that's what this video is going to be all about. I'm going to be showing you all of the books that I am rotating out of my library, and all of these books are going to be listed on my Pango account, and I'm going to have all of that information linked down below. And so let's get started and get showing all of the books that I'm going to be unhauling. Okay, so to start off with, this was a hard choice for me to make, and that was getting rid of Where the Crawdads Sing. I absolutely love this book, but I haven't reached for it since I did read it and watch the movie, and I just don't see a point in keeping it on my shelves if it's not something that I'm gravitating towards. I mean, this is such a pretty cover and everything, but honestly, it was time for this book to go. And then next, this was a hard choice as well, and that was getting rid of some of my Taylor Jenkins Reid books. And the first one is going to be Malibu Rising. This is another really great book, but once I read it, kept onto it because I did like it, but that was also multiple years ago, so it's time for this one to get rotated out. And then also another one that I had to choose between whether or not I wanted to keep it on my shelves, and then once again, this was another hard decision, was Daisy Jones and the Six. Absolutely love this book, but once again, if I'm not reaching for something and it's just kind of sitting, collecting dust on my shelf, it's time for that one to go. That way I can rotate in some other books, but definitely a great book, but just, it was time for this one to leave my personal library. So next I have two Lana Ferguson books. I have The Nanny, and personally for me, this one I just decided to go because even though I did enjoy it, it wasn't like a 5-star reader or anything. I think I rated this 3 stars. So it's kind of average for me. And it's, I don't know, just didn't really have a plot. So didn't feel like I would pick this up to read again. So that was a hard decision to make, but actually it wasn't that hard. But I just had to choose, and I'm like, it was time for this one to leave my library. And also, I did mention this one in my September books, and that is The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson as well. And I can't remember, I think it was a 3.5 star. Just wasn't anything spectacular. And so I just decided that it was time for this one to go as well. I mean, the cover is really cute. I love the cover, but somebody else can enjoy this book. And yeah, so that's why I decided to unhaul that. So this next group of books was another really hard decision for me to make, because even though I've read them and I wouldn't necessarily pick them up to read again, they're book talk books, very popular books, so I didn't know if I wanted to unhaul them or not, but ultimately I decided to unhaul them, and those are all of my Emily Henry books that I have. I like them, but they're not the type of books that I personally gravitate towards, especially for a reread. And so I have Beach Read, Book Lovers, People We Meet on Vacation, which is actually becoming, I think, a movie soon. And then obviously I have Happy Place. And another one that was really hard was Book Lovers. It does take place in the Asheville area, which is super close to me. So that one was hard, but at the end of the day, I need more room for newer books, and if I'm not rereading books, I don't see the purpose in keeping them. Next, we have The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I read this back when the movie came out, I believe in 2021, 22. I can't remember exactly when it came out, but it has the movie with the guy who plays young Gibbs in the new NCIS show, and then Lucy Hale. Super cute book, super cute movie, but at the end of the day, I literally have not thought twice about this book since I read it, and that was like 2-3 years ago. So at the end of the day, this one had to go. Next, I have Whistleblower by Kay Cove, and this is a part of her Paladin series. And this is a book that I actually got in my Probably Smut Book of the Month little box. And it is a special edition, and I think it's really cute, but I didn't necessarily enjoy this book. It wasn't my type of read that I enjoy. So I figure, you know, people like special editions, might as well put this up there for somebody else to enjoy, because at the end of the day, this just isn't my cup of tea. So this is another book I am unhauling. So the next little book I have is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Newland, or Nolan. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but even though I did enjoy this book, it's just not something that I necessarily want to reread ever again. So this is another one where I was like, it's time for you to go. Time for you to go. And I know this is such a popular book, and sometimes I will admit I do keep books on my shelf because they are popular. But you know, at the end of the day, this just isn't one that I gravitate towards. So this is another book that I'll have listed on my Pango account. Then I have some like fantasy books. I have Illuminae. I bought this like on a bargain book, I think, or something. I actually don't remember where I got this actually, or when, but I don't know. I just never gravitated towards it. The way it is set up looks really interesting. It looks like interviews, I guess. And at the end of the day, after looking at it, I didn't really like the setup of it. Like, let me see if I can find it. It's kind of like set up like this. And I just wasn't really drawn to this kind of setup. So I've had it for like probably 4 years, and it was time for it to go. And then I have Dance of Thieves by Mary Pearson. Really enjoyed this when I read it, but at the end of the day, it just isn't something that I necessarily like. It was probably like a 3-star read, and I haven't gravitated towards it in the 2 years since I've read it. So this was another one I decided to get rid of. And then this one took me forever to A, get into and try to read, and B, figure out if I wanted to try and read it after starting it. That is The Priory of the Orange Tree. I did try to start reading it, but I just couldn't get into it. And I tried multiple times to read this book. At the end of the day, it just felt kind of slow for me. And obviously, it's like 1,000 pages, and I don't know. Even though it is such a gorgeous cover, I just had to like sit deep down and think, this is not a reason to keep this on my shelves, especially with how big it is and how much space it takes up. If I'm not going to read it, it needs to go. So next I have a poetry book, Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I read through it. Not necessarily a big poetry fan, and I don't know, I just can't get into poetry. I don't understand how you're supposed to read it, so this was one I decided to get rid of, because I got rid of most of all of my poetry books, and this one just kind of like I hung on to. But definitely time for this one to go into my unhaul pile. So the last bit of books I have, these are like autobiographies that I have, like celebrity autobiographies. And the first one I have is Happy People Are Annoying by Josh Peck. I read this one, enjoyed it, but typically with autobiographies, I tend not to reread these, so I did decide to unhaul this one. And then I also have Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. This is one I've had on my shelf for a while and just haven't drawn myself to read it. I mean, I do like Anna Kendrick, but I don't know. It's also kind of hard for me to get into autobiographies, like celebrity ones. If it's like, I'll get the book when I'm into that celebrity, and then by the time I go to grab that book, I'm no longer interested in them. So that's kind of what happens with these. And then I also have Bossy Pants, which is Tina Fey's. Love Tina Fey. I've read bits and pieces of it, but just could never really get into it. And then the last one I have is #Girlboss. And I wanted to read this because I watched the show based on her, and I thought it was really interesting, but I don't know, I just never could get into like the book itself. And you know, if I can get into a book, I typically, if I try to do it again, it's going to be the same outcome and I won't read it, but that's why I decided to unhaul all of these. So those are all of the books that I decided to unhaul, and of course, like I said at the beginning, I'm going to have all of these books listed on my Pango account, so I'll have all that listed below. And also, don't forget, I do have my Etsy shop open. I did kind of change the name and everything since I posted the video about it, but I'll also have that linked below, and I got some cute stuff on there. But that's kind of the video for today. I haven't filmed in a while. I had some stuff going on, but definitely happy to film this video for you guys. Hopefully you might find some books you're interested in. You might want to buy off my Pango account, and till then, till next time, see you guys.